Hello, this is Jerry, and today's topic we are going to discuss is about Vishaka's case. This case is a landmark judgment and it addresses the issue of sexual harassment at the workplace. Now, the Supreme Court held that sexual harassment violates the fundamental rights of a woman. So it issued guidelines called the Vishaka Guidelines. This prevents harassment at the workplace. But this video is not to discuss about Vishaka's case in particular, but it discusses the harassment that a person faces while it is for both men and women, and the need to address this issue with gender neutral laws. So what are we going to discuss in this video? One, we are going to discuss the background of Vishaka's case. Second, the story behind Banwari Devi, a rape survivor, and a plight to fight for justice. Third, the key legal issues that was discussed while arguing the case of Vishaka's. Fourth, the court's findings. Fifth, a summary of the guidelines that was issued by the Supreme Court. Sixth, summary of Sexual Harassment at the Workplace Act. And seventh, what are the remedies available to men, and this is what they need to know in case they are faced with sexual harassment. And finally, the best practices that companies can adopt to adopt gender neutral policies that they're going to create. This is going to be a bit of a long video, but there's a lot of research done in this video, and I hope this might benefit someone who might face such issues. So let's get started. So let's discuss the background of the case. It was the year 1985 and a person called Banwari Devi was employed as a social worker. You can call her a Satan. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. She was working for a women's development project that was started by the government of Rajasthan. And the main motive of this project was to wipe out child marriages in villages. So Banwari's work was to work with families. She will have to report cases of child marriage to police in case their attention is required for urgent matters. So in one particular case, she tried to stop the child marriage of one person in a village called Ram Karan Gujar. He was trying to marry his infant daughter. Before she could stop the marriage was over. Now, as her job was to report incidents such as these to the police, this was the start of something really bad that was going to happen to her. Gujar's family, which was an influential family in that village, wanted to take revenge. They rebelled against her and subjected her to social boycott. Now you might be wondering what is the meaning of social boycott. It is where a person is punished by a group of persons belonging to that village and intentionally avoiding interaction with that person. Now, not stopping with that, in September 1992, those community people wanted to exclude her still more from the community. So 5 people joined up together and they raped her, that too in front of her husband at her workplace. Disappointing. So what did she do next? As any normal person, she approached the police, but no thorough investigation was done, and it was done to support the Gujar's family. Next, she was made to wait till midnight, and they asked her to leave her dress behind as evidence and return to the village. Now it was midnight. She didn't know what to do. She asked the police if she can sleep in the police station and go the next day, but that was not allowed. So at last she fought her way to the hospital, and the male doctor of the primary health care refused to examine her, and he didn't even record her age purposefully, and this was to avoid any reference of rape in his report. Only after 52 hours a medical examination was done. Despite this, she had been shunned away by the police and the doctors. She wanted to fight for her justice. So how did she do it? She lodged a complaint against the accused, but the trial court rejected it. because of lack of evidence. So seeing this, her situation, an NGO called Vishaka, it is otherwise known as a group for women's education and research, along with 4 other women's organizations, they joined the fight. They together filed a petition before the Supreme Court on the grounds of sexual harassment at workplace. So the court was forced to pass an order called the Vishaka Guidelines for the workplace, especially for women. Now, let's discuss the key legal issues that was argued in the Supreme Court. First, it identified basic human rights violation under the Constitution. The articles that was violated was Article 14, equality before law. Article 15, prohibition of discrimination on the ground of religion, caste and birth. Article 19, 1G, right to practice one's profession or to carry out any occupation, trade or business. And Article 21, that was the right to life and personal liberty. So what was the findings of the court? The Supreme Court dived deep into the case and found out that first, there was real gender inequality. Second, the actions done outraged the modesty of a woman. Third, it was sexual harassment at a workplace and especially targeted to women or to that lady. Fourth, rape, a huge societal issue. And finally, what does the employer do in case, and what is his responsibility in case he is facing issues of sexual harassment towards his women employees? Given all the above, the court was forced to issue the guidelines, otherwise called as the Vishaka Guidelines, and the order was passed in 1997. So let's discuss the points in the Vishaka Guidelines. One, it is every employer's duty and responsibility towards his women employees to prevent sexual harassment. Second, what are the actions considered as sexual harassment? It's physical contact and advances, demanding sexual favors, sexually colored comments, displaying pornography, any other unwelcome physical, verbal or non-verbal behavior of sexual nature. 3. These guidelines are applicable to both private employees and the public sector. 4. Employers need to establish a robust mechanism for prosecuting sexual offences. 5. Employees need to ensure that victims are not discriminated because of the complaint they have placed before the management. 6. Sexual harassment needs to be reported, documented and disposed immediately. 7. Acts such as sexual harassment has to be dealt appropriately and properly, which include disciplinary punishment and criminal prosecution. 8. Employees need to set up a complaints committee to handle sexual harassment complaints. 9. This sexual complaint committee or the complaints committee needs to be headed by a woman, and half of the members need to be women. 10. Employees need to educate the employees on Vishaka Guidelines. 11. The management needs to deploy the services of an NGO just to ensure that there is no pressure from the higher management. Finally, later the Vishaka Guidelines has been replaced by the act called the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act of 2013. So let's talk about the Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act of 2013. There are some interesting points, facts regarding this act. The act was passed after a decade. The Vishaka Guidelines was published. And it is commonly called as the Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act. In short, it is called POSH. Well, this act defines sexual harassment in a very detailed manner. As mentioned in the Vishaka Guidelines, it mandates or it is important for employers to form internal complaints committee where they have 10 or more employees. The Internal Complaints Committee, or the ICC for short, has the power of a civil court. They can summon persons or even summon documents. Suppose if the organization has less than 10 employees, then they should have something called as the local complaints committee that needs to be formed to address issues. The LCC covers the unorganized sectors too. The complaints has to be filed within 3 months by the affected party from the date of incident. Now, the LCC has all the powers to increase that time frame. If sexual harassment has been proved, then ICC advises the employer to follow the guidelines as per the company rules to initiate proper action. The lady or the affected person has 90 days to appeal in the court based on the decisions passed by the ICC. Accordingly, any information of the investigation cannot be relayed to the public in case the woman's name, the inquiry, the recommendation or any course of action. And also the Act specifies the punishment for a woman if she places false complaints and evidence. Well, the POSH Act that was passed in 2013, does it apply to men? Unfortunately, no. The POSH Act is not gender neutral. They provide more protection for women rather than men. However, it depends on the organization to create policies that are gender neutral. A man who's faced sexual harassment, he has no other option than to approach HR and there's no legal remedies for sexual harassment against men. The man has to document evidence. He has to capture videos, get WhatsApp messages, and he has to create evidence that needs to be shown to the HR. That is basically an uphill task. Well, it is up to organizations to follow gender neutral policies. I have a couple of suggestions on the best practices that can be followed by our organization. First, listen to their employees. Give it male or female without judgment. Second, reassure them that it is all the information provided is confidential and they need to inform the affected employee clear and concise information about the company's policy regarding sexual harassment. Third, they should keep the employee updated on the progress of the investigation. What is the action taken if sexual harassment has been proved? Fourth, employees need to have a comprehensive training program for all employees, irrespective of both men and women. And it should help to promote a healthy relationship, and they should have to know to provide mutual respect. Organizations can designate certain HR employees to take complaints to deal with sexual harassment, and they also can offer support to affected employees. Finally, men, if you're harassed at work, don't be afraid. You should be the first one to file a complaint to the HR. So let's conclude this video of Vishaka's case and sexual harassment targeted towards men. The Supreme Court has passed a very important judgment. It's really an eye-opener, and it brought out the need to safeguard women at the workplace. Many laws have been implemented, especially for women. But the disappointment is these laws are not gender neutral. The victims usually suffer in silence, both men and women, and they face the same social stigma. Gender neutral laws at workplace is really important, and this has been accepted by 77 countries like Denmark, Australia, Switzerland, the United States, Singapore, the United Kingdom, and many other countries have accepted gender neutral laws. In India, there are few companies such as Wipro Technologies, Taj Group of Hotels, Godrej have implemented gender neutral policies, and these are just few examples where these companies have implemented such rules. In fact, India's workplace sexual harassment law should provide a remedy for aggrieved persons, not for an aggrieved woman. Well, if you like this video, do post your comments as to whether India requires more gender neutral laws or a tough law like POSH that is focused entirely for women. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more case laws explained in a simple manner. Take care and see you in the next video. Bye bye.